Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Compliance Coach. Today we are doing something special because we are getting through a presentation that I gave this year in Zurich on a very interesting topic, meaning why compliance culture is so important, in particular when it comes to digital transformation in banks. Stay tuned on this channel and have a look on this presentation. My name is Ralph Ebert. I'm the Compliance Coach, 20 years of experience in the banking sector. I'm here to give you guidance and finding out new things. So thinking and impacting compliance differently, or the human touch of compliance. So you might ask yourself, why is there a compliance culture necessary when it comes to transformation processes? You're right, but whoever has experienced compliance transformation processes knows that then to a certain extent the party crasher steps in. Everybody is outraged what has happened, and then it needs the precision of a Swiss watch, the charisma of a TED talker, and the wisdom of Gandalf to save the story. That is why sometimes we need this cultural element of stepping in. And for me, personally speaking, compliance culture in a bank is a lifestyle. Who could it express better than Simon Sinek when he says, a culture is strong when people work with each other, for each other. So let's have a view on the main challenges in the financial crime prevention sector when it comes to banking. Especially if we see over the last 5 years, the banking sector has been exposed with mainly 4 threats. One of them is an unpredicted increase of regulatory requirements in the banking sector, nicely expressed by the diagram, and you can see that numbers and penalties related to FCP violations are getting up. Number 2 is as well an increase of penalties when it comes to non-compliant behavior, whether this is from US regulators in the EU, but as well in Switzerland, as we have seen. Criminals are becoming increasingly sophisticated in the use of technology to perpetrate financial crime. It's unfortunately always like that. It's not always that the police get smarter, but the gentlemen on the other side as well. So it might be as well a good reason of doing so. And of course, we need to have the right people in terms of fighting that, and I come to that in a second. Why is that so important? And some of you who have stayed already with this video channel knows what I'm talking about, meaning the battle for compliance talents. So let's talk about the facts in banking and the dreams behind it. Global surveys always shows that there is a large appetite in financial industries to innovate and go for digital technologies and transformation processes. So that's the new inward when it comes to the banking. Everybody does technology, everybody does digital transformation. But if you look a little bit behind the curtain, it's quite deceiving. 75 banks already pretending of having launched a digital transformation initiative. However, in a world where more than half of the population is under 25 years old, business cannot afford to ignore digital transformation. That comes from nobody else than McKinsey company. And what does it mean is we need to invest in this technology in terms of being, even from a competitor perspective, armed for the next years in banking. Now, if you look on FinCrime digitalization, the truth is only 18% of financial crime compliance leaders are using AI, and tech-enabled FinCrime compliance workflow will grow 31% over the next years, which puts up into a very special scenery. And of course, those ones who have to deal with budget, meaning only a small budget is expected, roughly 9.5% to be allocated in addition to compliance for these kind of activities. Meaning 41% of the FinCrime leaders believe that only partnerships with fintechs and the introduction of AI in internal processes will help them. And honestly, if you have watched one of my other episodes on this one, I'm a true believer in that one as well. Now let's have a look on the main drivers and trends in compliance. Looking on the left side, main drivers are focus on customer experience, because ultimately we want to give a seamless process with a good onboarding experience and a life cycle management where the customer has always the impression he or she is in the focus of all our doings. And that includes as well RMs as part of our direct clients from a compliance perspective. Some of the new banks have, I think, experienced a very good start. Us working in the private bank sector, we have certainly other conclusions to take, and that comes, of course, because the typical private client is a little bit, or private bank client is a little bit different in the demand than a retail client. We have seen evolving regulatory requirements, and that is a non-stopping train that gets faster and faster. And in terms of avoiding any kind of derailing as well, technology must go in. Obsolete systems, what do I mean by that? Is meaning as well modernizing our infrastructure, whether it's the core banking system, systems of monitoring, transaction monitoring, negative news, that they talk with each other and not against each other. And last but not least, of course, the enhanced employee and operational efficiency, which does that mean that finally, with our focus on the real risk, we will be in a position in terms of allocating compliance resources on this matter. Now, competition as well is, of course, a point, and I mean that not only in terms of because I have digital transformation project that I'm more attractive to a client. I mean that in terms that you do your work more efficient, quicker, and honestly, numbers are showing as well that you discover risks earlier or more effectively. Now, on the right side, where are we in trends? We have, and I think a lot of my colleagues would tell me the same experience. We cannot do on a compliance function on our own these elements. We need the fintechs, and we are going, all of us, into partnerships with fintechs. Why should you not attract the best people on the planet when it comes to the best technologies instead of developing that on your own? Cybersecurity and compliance, of course, is a big element. We see that in Switzerland. It's one of the main agenda in 2024 of the FINMA focus topics. And I hope that everybody has enough protection into place in terms of not getting too much as well subject to these kind of cyber attacks on the websites. AI and automation as well, we will come to that in a second. There's always a magic word that AI can help us in that regard, but you need to be always smart in terms of finding an integrative solution and not a disruptive solution whenever it comes to that. Blockchain explorations, we have some in Switzerland when it comes to the onboarding of ARMs, open source element, which is certainly the way forward in the future. In 2024, something in our focus, not so sure that a lot of banks have already implemented that. Of course, going forward, that will be the place to be if your technology is not already integrated or scalable on a blockchain element. It will be difficult to survive. Now the question is, why are there reasons that digital transformation failed? Now, Jay Shetty again, failures are failures when we don't learn from them. When we learn from them, they become lessons. And I think that's always something which is very important. We all are subject from a compliance perspective to dark moments and very difficult ones, but we have to learn from that. Why is that very often so? If we screen a little bit the lessons learned out of these projects, there's a lack of leadership support. Projects allocated only to one person, but does not really is integrative part of the whole bank. Lack of a clear vision and strategy. If you have a look in my other videos, you will know that already. You need to define what you want, because if that is not clear, the whole way forward is not clear as well for digital transformation. Who just thinks that with AI, automation and efficiency, the thing is done? It's not. You need to have before and a vision and a strategy to know what kind of tools you are doing, and insufficient resources as well. It's not because you have a provider that the things are done. You need as well to allocate good internal resources to do so. Now, we have very often a cultural resistance to change, meaning as well on front, as well on compliance side, people that say we did that always like that, we will continue like that, or what has been done in the past was the good one. And here as well, there is certainly this emotional or emotional intelligence factor to be put in. And of course, we have a certain kind of a complexity to it. Now, if you look on the biggest failures when it comes to digital transformation, I always quote the UK National Health Services and the National Programme for IT on their side, which in 2002 already created a centralized health record for more than 50 million of patients. Budget overrun was roughly initially from 6.2 billion pounds up to 12, and the whole program was dismantled in 2011. Remaining nothing on this one. If we look in the banking sector, we have as well, unfortunately, if the UK is ahead, 2012, might that somebody remembers that, the 2012 Royal Bank of Scotland overhauls its IT system with millions of clients on this one, and the batch update crashed. And what does it mean? Was customers didn't have access anymore to their accounts for several hours, several days for some of them. Estimated loss roughly 270 million pounds. So you see, if things are not running well, it can be always an issue. Now, people who know me that I'm always like to provide disruptive elements or entertaining parts. So what is that? Yes, that's the Swedish Vasa. And what has happened to the Swedish Vasa? It was that famous ship that has been built in 1682, the war Sweden against Poland. And the king of Sweden was very into it and wanted to construct another platform for cannons, more cannons, better efficiency. What has happened, some of you might know, because it sunk after only 1,555 meters. The shortest maiden journey ever done by a ship, and that ship is one of the most beautiful elements. So if you do not know where to go for the next vacation, go to Stockholm and have a look in the Vasa Museum. If you want to have a look on the Vasa video that I took up several months ago, have a look as well on my YouTube channel and enjoy it. By the way, as well, as you know me, I always love the small stories. The Vasa was finally rediscovered in 1956 after 333 years. And the element, what has happened in 1956 on a digital transformation was what? Yes, IBM introduced the first hard disk drive HDD with 5 megabytes. So you see already the connection or correlation between Vasa, traditional versus the analog digitalization in 1956. Now coming the fun part of it. I have tried to put the success story of digital transformation into a formula. So here it is, have a look. So what do I mean by that? KYC is know your company. Then KYD, know your data, know your provider, very important. I come to that as well on my next slides. On the other hand, in terms of the elements to be taken into consideration, you have know your compliance culture, meaning that is one of the founding elements. If you don't have that into place, your transformation will get into troubles. Know your colleague, what I mean by that, stay tuned. Know your values, and last but not least, know your governance. Let's now go into the next part of the journey. Know your company is you have to have a vision and a mission of the digital transformation. You need to invest in that part most of the time in terms of really understand what technology support for compliance function you would like to have. Is it just a compliance project, or is it an end-to-end banking project? Know your data. Number two, it should be number one, honestly, because the overarching element here is you need to know where your data is sitting, whether you have dark data outside there, whether your data is structured, unstructured, how to get it, etc. Because you can have the best provider, you can have the best idea, the best strategy in place, even the best colleagues. Without your data will not work. Know your provider, meaning make the right choice. What do I mean by that? Is do you want to get off the shelf what is on the market, take it and then adopt it, which of course is good. But here as well, you need to understand, would you like to replace kind of tools, or do you need so-called APIs, meaning that tools are communicating with each other and something on top of it? Or is it that you do from scratch and you would like to do it with a boutique vendor in terms of getting to the next element? Very important, avoid black box models. What do I mean by that is you need to have always an audit trail on what you do, because you cannot tell that to the regulator, hey, I have my new scoring system, no idea of how it does work, but I have it in place, so it's automized. That's certainly not a good answer. My personal view on this one is that you should always go for plug and play solutions. Why it's so important that you have already a first, let me say, Boris Becker, big point in Wimbledon. You hit the big point by already touching the first pain point in the organization, whether it's onboarding, review, condition following up, name it, to make everybody adhering to the project by saying, wow, this is a cool solution and we really need it. So that, I think, would be my first advice on this one. So why is compliance culture in digital transformation so important? The truth is that a transformation process is made for and with people, and that having the right skills, the right mindset, and a supporting culture. A friend of mine always said, we hire for skills, we fire for attitude. And I find that as well expressed in terms of what you need from kind of people that are working with you and in the bank. And there is a high dependency on the compliance and the compliance culture for the transformation processes. A transformation process will not replace an existing culture, and an existing culture will not replace the technology. So it's a really balanced approach. And therefore, I think it's very important to see that digital transformation is a helping element. It can sometimes bring you to the next level. It is not a cure for all policy, process, resource, governance diseases in the banking industry. So I think that as well is to be taken into consideration here. So what I always like to do is to create what I always called a vision and mission statement. Why is that so important? Because it gives a clear view of how a compliance function should work and what's your expectation of the organization. And here I have a nice example where you even define compliance in terms of competency, ownership, mission, proactivity and protection, leadership, integrity, assessment, neutrality, culture, efficiency, and effectiveness. And why is that so important? Because my question always to my compliance officers is in terms of what do you think about compliance culture? Or what do we mean when we talk about integrity? And if your own people are not aspiring this kind of strategy and mission statement, you cannot expect that from business or elsewhere. So very important, compliance, mission, and vision statement. We come now to other essential financial crime prevention. It's the human touch. Know your colleague. Why I'm saying that? Because I did already a very interesting video on know your colleague. The story behind is very easy. I was working in a very famous French bank, 70 people. After 2 weeks, I've discussed with everybody, and I came into the big town hall when I put then the name KYC on the board, and everybody was not really impressed by saying, hey, the new head compliance, KYC, know your client, is that what you are all about? And when they saw know your colleague, they were quite astonished, because then I asked them who's running the 11.6, the 100 meters, and they found out who it is or who was running a professional motorcycle team. And so you get people then engaged. So human error is still the biggest risk in banks, despite transformation, etc. So the level of skill set, but in particular the attitude and integrity is super important part. And for the funny part as well, of course, is the know your governance element that I did a short video on this one as well, meaning it doesn't mean that compliance is in your bank, that all compliance topics are dealt by compliance. Compliance is second line of defense, and the whole model needs to go across the 3 line of defense and across the bank. So if a compliance culture is not lived at the bank's level, forget about that. And we will be the goalkeeper, but if the ball is in, the ball is in. And what we all know, that's not what you would like to have. Let me just give a short outlook on the digital era in financial crime compliance. The fact is, the transformation processes will profoundly impact our businesses. So the question is not an if, but rather when and how to start digital transformation process within your bank. Transformation is not just about implementing technology. It's having the right people, having the right skills, the right mindset, and the supporting culture in the bank. And of course, the digital transformation process will start with a strong compliance culture as a foundation and not an all-purpose solution, and to complete the non-existing part. So again, here my slogan: make compliance not only a department, but a lifestyle of the bank. However, there's a very important element that we have to take into consideration as well, because the work of us, the compliance officers, will shift from a data collector to a data analysis and data validation. And that's very important. Why I'm telling that? Because that means as well the creation of a new era compliance officers. I did a very funny video on will AI replace compliance? You know already the answer if you have watched it, but it means we are having to look out for new skill sets when it comes to compliance officers, meaning people with data mining, data analysis background. And then the problem is that we are, of course, competing against the big Googles, Facebook, Netflix, and call them. So we need to create an attractive environment in terms of attracting people as well on our digital transformation. That was it here on my side. I'm more than happy to have you here with me. Thank you for listening to that one. If you want anything else that I can do for you in terms of bringing you compliance topics closer and making my world more clearer to you, don't hesitate to let me know. Thinking and impacting compliance differently, or the human touch of compliance. See you next time.